class once again. Welcome in history for senior 6. Today our lesson today is the world economic depression. World economic depression and the rise of totalitarian regimes in Europe. Totalitarian regimes in Europe. As you see, dear learners, we have combined the two topics within this lesson. Where firstly we talk about economic depression. Then later on we have to analyze factors for rise of totalitarian regimes in Europe just after the First World War. Then, as usual, we have firstly objectives. Remember, those objectives are set up in order to facilitate you to evaluate yourself by the end of our lesson. Where objective number 1 is the factors. You have to be able to explain the factors leading to the outbreak of world economic depression. Secondly, you have to be able also to identify different measures adopted by different countries in order to overcome these problems caused by world economic depression. And also, you will be able, by the end of this lesson, to evaluate the impact caused by world economic depression on world economies. Next, we have to talk about totalitarian regimes. By the end of this lesson, we will be also able to assess the common characteristic of totalitarian regimes rose up in Europe. We will be also able to analyze the factors that facilitated such regimes to rise up in Europe. And also, by the end, you have to be able to examine the reasons for the collapse of totalitarian regimes. Dear learners, those are our objectives for our lesson today. Then, what are identify the many points to be covered here? By the many points, we have the many points. Such many points, of course, as our lesson. Firstly, we will talk about the factors that lead to the outbreak of the world economic depression from 1929 up to 1935, others 39. We have also number 2 to identify the measures adopted by different countries in order to solve the problem caused by world economic depression. Even also, we have to find effects of such world economic depression. Next, other 3 points are concerning the rise of totalitarian regimes, such as common characteristics, characterizing the mainly in Europe. We have the case of Nazism, we have the case of fascism, Nazism in Italy, and the fascism in Italy and the Nazism in Germany. Apart from many factors, many common characteristics, we talk about also the factors that helped Benito Mussolini to rise up, and also helped Adolf Hitler to rise up on power, one in Italy, another one in Germany. Then later on, we'll talk about the collapse of such totalitarian regimes in Europe. Then, firstly, what about world economic, the outbreak? What about the outbreak of world economic depression? Talk about the outbreak of world economic depression. Firstly, it is matter to we have to understand world economic depression, WED. We have to recall you what do we understand by world economic depression. It is a case of world economic crisis or stagnation, which is just globally experienced from 19 It is a case of world economic depression expressed from 1929 up to 1935, even others linked to 1939. Some used to say maybe during this period, even others go beyond such a period. It was a world economic depression or crisis characterized by total breakdown in the production process. We have a case of total breakdown in the production process. It was also characterized by unemployment, characterized also by the low income, generally lack of effective demand, but also we have a low price. Having low price can lead to low investment, and having low investment later on also linked to low economic activities in general. It is said maybe that the first experience or case of world economic depression started in Canada, but where it was serious, it was so especially in the United States of America by the Wall Street crash or the stock crash, which dated on Thursday, 1929, and spread out also, apart from taking origin from Canada, United States of America, but later on affecting the world economics, affecting also European countries. Then, it matters also to know or to understand what are the factors. What are the factors that lead or leading to world economic depression. World economic depression. Here we have to analyze or to see, to list down some more factors. We remember by 1929, around 10 years ago after the First World War, of course, some factors leading to the world economic depression are linked also to the negative consequences. We have a case of negative consequences of the First World War, of the World War I. By such negative consequences, including the case of destruction of some infrastructures, especially economic infrastructures like industries, like a case of creation of unemployment that lead to such case of world economic depression. We have also the point about overproduction. This case of overproduction affected mainly the countries which were not directly involved into the First World War. Those extra European powers such as United States of America, such as Canada, such as Brazil, which produced more, expecting maybe to get a market from the European countries, while European countries, by the time being also affected by the World War I, had no purchasing power to buy the products from those countries. We have also another point leading to world economic depression was also high taxation system. This high taxation system. By the end of, especially in order to escape the after-war situation, some countries, especially in Europe, after facing the problem caused by world economic depression, First World War, expected maybe to impose high taxation would solve the problem. But instead of solving the problem, also wasn't the situation because people or the one who were asked to pay more taxes had no power, being affected also by the First World War. Apart from this, there is a case of poor trading policy. Poor trading policy. By poor trading policy, especially it was a kind of policy adopted by some victorious powers to break up the trading activities in the relationship with the defeated ones, which paralyzed somehow the world economy and the world trading activities. There is also unfair income distribution. We have a long list, like unfair income distribution, where industrialists are not, the income was not fairly distributed among the workers and industrialists. We have also general decline in economic activities, which is also to somehow caused by among the effects of the First World War. And there is also the gold standard system. There was a gold standard system. By gold standard system, we understand where, of course, it was a kind of system of trading where the basis was based on gold capacities, especially in reserves, where the countries without having enough gold in reserves could not participate into trading activities, which of course paralyzed these economic and trading activities in the world. Lastly, as it say, of course, it was the crash of the World Stock Exchange in the street in Manhattan. We are in the United States of America by October 24, 1929, which just reading to close up some American banks, and which also leading to the case of unemployment because people, after closing of such some financial institutions, there is a lack of job to some workers. Then, apart from the factors, we have also to understand or talk about how did the different countries react or how to solve such problem caused by world economic depression. The reason why we have some measures. We have some measures adopted by different countries, by different countries in order to overcome by different countries facing the problem caused by this world economic depression. Some countries like Germany, we have a case, typically the case of Germany, for example. We have the case of Germany. We have the case of United States of America. We have maybe the case of European countries, how other European countries, especially not only Germany, other European countries reacted. Of course, in the case of Germany, we remember that by the end of the First World War and the Versailles Peace Treaty, we have seen previously that Germany was punished to pay a war indemnity, war reparation by repairing what have been destroyed during the First World War. To Germany especially, it is by violating such Versailles Peace Treaty, by stopping to pay war indemnity in order to save the Germany's economy. Where by United States of America, especially under the presidency of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, there is a case of establishment of the policy known as a New Deal. By this New Deal, concerning maybe to recover American economy by providing a job, by providing relief scheme to people who are unemployed in order to support and to recover the American economy. Whereby European countries, many European countries also try to solve the problem by establishing economic integration, especially by creation of European economic integration. By economic integration, where of course they reduce the barriers customs in order to facilitate the trading relationship between different countries. There is also a case of distribution of unemployment relief schemes, which was adopted not only in the United States of America, but also adopted in some European countries like in Britain, like also in France. Those are some measures adopted by different countries in order to overcome the world economic depression. Another point, dear learners, here is to analyze also the effects, the impact of this world economic depression. After facing for long and trying to solve the problem and to eradicate the many reasons, many factors, many causes, of course, there is the effect of world economic depression. Of this world economic depression. Remember that economic depression not only affecting European countries or so-called developing countries, but also affected other countries like developing countries, because those developing countries are still waiting for being supported by European and American countries. The reason why the effects of world economic depression was also worldwide, because affecting more, where we have a case of human suffering. We have a case of human suffering. Human suffering. This human suffering can be due to unemployment and low income, which of course change the level of living standards. There is also, apart from human suffering, the world economic depression facilitates the rise of some dictators, some so-called dictators, especially in Europe, where called being dictators, the one who wanted to solve the home countries, the home problem caused by world economic depression by using aggressive policy. This is the case of, especially we have the case of Italy, and then we have the case of Germany, where we have some dictators like Adolf Hitler, so in Germany, and then we have Benito Mussolini. In Italy, even we have General Francesco Franco in Spain. Apart from leading to the rise of so-called dictators, we have also international aggression to lead to international aggression. By calling so-called international aggression, it is due to aggressive policy adopted by such dictators in order to solve the home problem. Because some more big countries like Germany, like Italy, wanted to solve the problem caused by world economic depression by attacking and by occupying the smaller countries. We have a case of invasion of Ethiopia by Italy, invasion of Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, and Poland also by Germany. It led also to the formation, we have seen that it led to the formation of world economic, regional economic integration, where we have the case of in Europe. But later on, also, the world economic depression led to the outbreak of World War II. To the World War II. This is due to aggressive policies, especially used by dictators, where they made other countries also to be involved in the case of conflicts. Then we continue, we have a longer list where we have a decline of international trade. This is due to, as many countries started to use protectionist policy. There is also adoption or world trade decline. This world trade decline was due to the application of so-called protectionism policy, where some countries, especially protectionism, wanted to protect their home industries by limiting the case of trading between the home country and the other countries. This is in the case of, sometimes in the case of United States of America, where they expect maybe to solve the problem by limiting commercial relations with other countries. There is also abolition or suppression of gold standard system. We have seen that gold standard system was one to be a root cause of world economic depression. As a solution adopted by it is also to end up. There is also the collapse of financial institutions and the collapse of banks. Dear learners, this is the end of point about world economic depression, where we remember we have seen the factors which lead to its outbreak. We have identified the measures to adopt. Even we have identified also the effects brought by this world economic depression. Next, we have to talk about also rise of totalitarian regimes as point 2 of our lesson today. This rise of totalitarian regimes in Europe. Firstly, we have to understand why do we call totalitarian, what kind of regimes, political regimes rose up in Europe during this period of, we have rise of totalitarian regimes. Rise of totalitarian regimes in Europe. As in connection, of course, with the point number 1 about world economic depression, remember, even linked to First World War, we have so-called totalitarian regime. By totalitarian, we have a total, where it means it is a system or a political system where the state recognizes no limits of its authority. Of course, being totalitarian, the leaders hold all powers, all 3 political powers into the hands, where there is no limits of its authority, and they strive later on to regulate every aspect of the life, being politically, being involved in the politics, in economics, socially, culturally. It is also, it have been developed, this case of totalitarian regimes developed in Italy. The one developed in Italy known as fascism under Benito Mussolini. And then the one developed also in Germany is very known under the name of Nazism under Adolf Hitler. Those are the 2 regimes developed in Europe, especially between 1930s up to 1940s. It means maybe around such a period where we have the rise, and then by here we have the time for collapse. Being called maybe both totalitarian regimes such as fascism, such as Nazism, such totalitarian regimes had the common characteristic, By the common characteristics, we have the following. For example, characterizing both fascism and the Nazism. The first one, it is a case of extreme nationalism. For example, we have the case of extreme nationalism, where the leaders under the such regime used to defend the nation than others, but not to respect human rights, because next it is a case of dislike of the importance of human rights, where the leaders used to support the idea of defending a nation, even if there is a case of sometimes the abuse of human rights. Where number 3 is a case of identification of enemies as a scapegoat. To justify the why maybe they do react in different ways, it is a case of defending a nation. It is also caused by or qualifying the enemies as a scapegoat in order to unify the cause of their election. There is also supremacy of military, where in all domains we have a domination of military. We have excessive sexism, where the male were dominant. Also to them, according to such regimes, the men have to dominate in all life. There is over control of mass media. It is also another common characteristic, both to fascism and to Nazism. There is over control of mass media, where we have to control what have been said through the mass media. There is also obsession with national security. This is linked maybe to characteristic number 1, where we have the protection of nationalism. We have also defense and the protection of religion, but also in reverse, the religion has also to defend such regime, like in the case of fascism in Italy, where there is a collaboration between Benito Mussolini and the Pope. There is also separation of intellectuals and the arts. Intellectuals suppressed because they could not conquer with the leaders. Then, apart from the characteristics, we have also rise of fascism. What about the rise of fascism and the Benito Mussolini? We have a case of Benito Mussolini in Italy. And then we have also rise of Nazism, in Germany. Commonly, what about the factors supporting them? Mussolini rose up due to strong support from the Italian peasant. That is one factor. Can it be also due to his strong personality, the one who is able to convince the peasant in order to support him? There is also effects of the First World War, even the effects of World Economic Depression, where Benito Mussolini promised the Italians better situation if they support him. We cannot also forget the case of weaknesses of King Victor Emmanuel II, who was not able also to defend and to defend and to overrule this case of Italy. Apart from factors for rise, but later on, there were also factors for the collapse in Benito Mussolini in Italy, where, of course, among the reasons is for his end of his power after maintaining his power for long, because he just rose up to power. This just rose up to power from 1922 up to 1945. After maintaining his power for about long years like that, he made maybe some mistakes leading to his collapse. Where firstly, there is a case of dictatorship. The use of dictatorship and by his leadership just concluded to his decline. We have a case of denial to the Italians to all sort of freedoms and rights ever have seen, also lead to its decline. We have also failed to control malpractice in the government, like corruption, like embezzlement of public fund. Later on, even we have a case of failure to the policy of economic self-reliance. We have economically poor and police. We have a failure in the social services sector, and also Benito Mussolini was accused to be in alliance with Adolf Hitler. Then later on, there was maybe internally there is economic crisis and military crisis, because later on Benito Mussolini have been killed by his own soldiers. This is a case of Benito Mussolini and the fascism in Italy. What about Nazism in Germany under Adolf Hitler? We have some factors also supporting the rise of this Adolf Hitler. Some factors are the following. Of course, we have a case of his strong personality, because he was the one to defend and to use oral speaking in order to convince the audience. He used also unfair terms of Versailles peace treaty, and also by which Adolf Hitler accused the members or participants, signatories of Versailles peace treaty, to be harsh to the German economy, and also accused the government, Bavarian government or Weimar Republic under Paul von Hindenburg, also to be weak, so that he would accept to sign such Versailles peace treaty, which was too harsh to the Germany. There is also support from the Nazi stormtroopers. We remember that Adolf Hitler was the head of Nazi as a social, economic, political party, and he was also the one to write his own writing. Of course, also mobilized around him the peasants to support him in what we call Mein Kampf. He used maybe to mobilize people to explain his connotation. And then later on, Adolf Hitler was favorized by the death of ancient president of Weimar Republic. This is President Paul von Hindenburg, who passed. And this case of death of president created a vacuum post to Adolf Hitler he wanted to occupy. Rising to power, of course, Adolf Hitler was in power from 1933 up to 1945. After rising to power, he used to use different methods to consolidate his power in Germany. But later on, by 1945, during the Second World War, Adolf Hitler also collapsed, and his policy of Nazism also collapsed, due also to different factors, including the death of his best friend, Benito Mussolini, who has been killed by his own soldiers on the 28th April 1945. And also there is a case of decline in the German economy. Economically, while both leaders promised their people better situation, but later on they failed also to establish economic reforms. There is also the dictatorship used by Adolf Hitler by killing his own soldiers, by killing the opponents. Even we have the case of withdrawal of the Germany from the League of Nations, paralyze and make this Germany vulnerable from a kind of punishment. We have also lack of or outbreak of the Second World War by invasion of Poland, because Adolf Hitler was responsible for outbreak of Second World War through the invasion of Poland, which just broke up the appeasement policy adopted by countries like France and Britain, starting lapsing into the Second World War, by which it was ended up by the defeat of this Adolf Hitler. Of course, by defeat Adolf Hitler, of course, by this time, also later on, while he was nearest to be defeated, he used to commit, said maybe that have used it to commit suicide, and then there is committing of suicide. It was the last blow to the existence of the Nazi, and then later on there was starting by disintegration of Nazism in Germany by the end of life of Adolf Hitler. Dear learners, we come to the end of our lesson today, but I would invite you to continue reading, because what you have here, it is a strong summary. You have to go to still reading in order to get more details about this world economic depression, about also rise of totalitarian regimes in Europe. Not only by continuing reading yourself, but you have also to assess yourself, where you have to go to you refer to your learner's book on page 225, and accomplishing the work is there, is about the end unit assessment. Please try to give the real relevant answers to end unit assessment questions in order to be sure that you achieve to our objectives. Remember, at the first we have listed down our objectives. Dear learners, this is the end of our lesson today. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you for your participation. See you the next. Teacher was in Horoshast. Thank you.